Welcome to MLM.com Web TV. I'm Clifton Jolly, your host. And we've got a program that I'm particularly interested in because whenever anyone says compensation plan, my eyes tend to roll back in my head. I'm very glad that we have experts like Mark Rawlins, the CEO and founder of Infiltrax, to be here to explain it to us. Mark, welcome.
Yes. Thank you. Good to be here.
First of all, tell me what free and free is it?
Free and free.
I can't even say the name, much less describe what it. Tell us what that is.
Free and free is a relatively new adaptation of in the MLM industry of a very little concept, which is the idea that if a distributor can get their product for free, they're likely to stay around longer, which we have done some studies on, and it's probably true. And a free and free is basically that if you have three people you personally sponsor, whether they're customers or distributors, who are buying an order under some set of circumstances, that the next month you get your product for free. So it's a way of discounting. In some companies they allow partial payment of orders, and others it has to be free and free. But that's the concept.
Now, as you suggested, I suspect there are all kinds of permutations on that, because this impacts not only what a person gets in terms of product, but it also has to impact what counts as compensation to the independent distributor.
Exactly. Very insightful for a man who claims he knows nothing about compensation plans.
I listened to you talk to other people about it.
They're right. And this is where, over the last 10 years, compensation plans have exploded in complexity in any case, for a variety of reasons, and maybe we'll talk about that someday. But one of the things that is true is 30 years ago when I got in this business, when we talked about the compensation plan, it was something that we ran on the 15th of every month, printed the checks, and mailed them out on the 20th of the month. That was the compensation plan. Now compensation is not an event, it's a whole series of things. And so you have to constantly be looking and saying if it's compensation, and it matters a lot, because the federal government says it matters a lot. Because for whatever reason, they want to know what is compensation and what isn't.
And that, so we start back when I remember my Aunt Delilah sitting in her kitchen up on 6th South at the table.
This is in Salt Lake City.
In Salt Lake City.
For people who are watching this from upper...
600 South, Salt Lake City, just over from Trolley Square.
Yeah.
And she would sit at the kitchen table and figure how much she owed her Shackley distributors.
Right.
So they used to do all of this by hand, and we trusted the distributors to be responsible for it.
Right. The Shackley paid out probably a few hundred distributors when they were a very large company, and they in turn redistributed that income.
Yeah. And so then you guys got into the business, figured out this could be done by computers. If we hadn't put computers into the mix, Mark, it could never have gotten this complicated.
Could have never gotten this complicated, because when you had to calculate them by hands, they by necessity had to be relatively simple. And you still see a fair number of companies who still, you can see that artifact of a compensation plan that can all be figured out basically.
Stair-step breakaway program that you can figure it out basically.
On your kitchen table, or Aunt Delilah's kitchen table, as the case may be.
So if we had just refused to let computers into MLM, we'd still be doing basically simple compensation.
But then what would I have done for a living? So now, since we did allow this, compensation is now a very complex thing. And so it's important that companies remember, when you do a 3 and free program, it might just be a discount like Amazon would give me if I buy a lot of their products, in which case it's not compensation. But if I receive this, and this is a layman's definition, as I said, in a previous interview, I'm not an attorney, don't want to be an attorney, not an accountant, don't want to be an accountant. But both of these people need to be involved in this decision. If you get a compensation from a layman's point of view, if you get a discount on an order because of acts you did, because I bought product for my own consumption, that's clearly not compensation. But if I get a discount on my personal order because I sign up 3 distributors who buy product of their own, that's compensation just as clearly as if it was written out in a commission check. And by and large, that's how the federal government will view it if they understand it.
So it is, it's very much like winning a car in a sweepstakes. You get the car free for nothing, but you still have to pay taxes on it.
Right.
And so you may get this product relatively free for having gotten 3 paying customers, but that becomes part of your compensation for having gotten those customers.
Right. Let's take a typical example. I get in the business solely for the purpose of getting my product for free. I sign up my 3 people. They stay on for the entire year. I get a $100 order free every month. That's $1,200 in compensation. The federal government's limit for 1099s at this point is $600 of compensation. So the company should send me a 1099. Now, here again, this is where companies really get themselves into trouble, because if they don't bring their accountants and attorneys in to understand their business processes well enough, if the attorney and accountant, their CPA, think, well, this is just a discounted order, they may, and you don't explain to them that this is something that they get not because of their own activity or their own retail purchases, but because of somebody in their downline, they may miss it.
Now, for companies, though, this sounds like a good deal, because instead of giving you $100 cash, I'm giving you $100 worth of product for which I pay 10, 15 cents on the dollar.
Right.
And so it works for the company.
And by the way, the single biggest expense that a company has on product they sell is the compensation they sell in that product. As you said, you know, a company in this industry, certainly if they sell a $100 product, they're not going to pay more than $20 or they could not stay in business.
Exactly.
But they'll be paying $40 or $50 of that in commissions. And so that $40 or $50 expense goes away because they do not pay commissions on the pre-order by and large.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of an interesting, because as they talk about the percentage they might make, they can...
So if I were a distributor who, from a distributor standpoint, maybe they don't care, because either I'm going to give you $100 and get my product, or you're going to give me my product. And if you count that as compensation, fine. But who should be concerned, potentially, is the sponsor, right? Because I frequently tell my clients, look, do not reward with product. The reason being that if you reward a distributor's behavior with product, the sponsor knows that they're paying for half that.
Right.
Half that reward, because they're not getting compensated on it. That being the case, in some ways, this 3 and free is doing very much the same thing. It's rewarding the distributor for getting these customers over here, but that would normally be a purchase by the distributor that an upline would get paid on. And not a lot of companies don't listen, because obviously there are wonderful exponentials on giving product as rewards. But this is basically an extension of that problematic and an argument with that philosophy, because basically we're saying we're rewarding people with product and not paying the guy above.
Right, and most of the 3 and free promotions deal with that by not allowing the free order to waive the personal sales requirement.
So they still have a PV requirement.
Personal sales requirement.
Yeah, okay, yeah, personal sales volume requirement.
Words matter.
Which, as opposed to a personal purchase, which would not be,
which would be illegal.
Yeah, so precisely. So not what we're talking about.
So it's not what we're talking about.
All. Okay. Mark Rawlins, you're going to, as soon as you walk out the door, I'm going to forget 70% of this, so you'll come back and talk to us.
Just remember my phone number. That's the important part.
No, you guys remember who said all of this about 3 and free, because there are a bunch of you out there who are already in 3 and free programs, and you're saying, that's not it at all. Right to the master.
Exactly.
Will you do a column on this as well for MLM.com? Watch for his column. Once again, thank you very much. I'm Clifton Jolly for MLM.com. Join us next time.